Finn. Everyone good? You're good?
All good.
Good. This talk today is really sort of the story of that 10-year journey that started in 2007, and it's a nice way to pick it up right from where Ben left off, which is 10 years ago, I wasn't even sitting in the seat that you're sitting in now. 10 years ago, my journey started in a place that for years I've actually kind of been a little bit ashamed of. I started much later in my career than a lot of you, in that I dropped out of college to go on the road with my band, and metal. And we were doing amazing things, and I was really excited about where we were, but I got a little ways down the road, literally and figuratively, and I realized that when all was said and done, all the money and all the time and all the tears and the hard work and the effort that I put into trying to make that band work and trying to make that life work, the thing that was actually working was the nights that I stayed up hacking on WordPress. The nights that I sat in the van with a power inverter, driving 40 hours to Seattle to get a flat tire and break down and have a brake line bust and have a trailer overturned in the middle of Wisconsin. And I'm sitting waiting for a tow truck with a power inverter so I can get a client's site done. Those were the things that were actually working in my life. And I had to make a decision at some point. What's working and what's not? Where's my real passion? I had a passion for music. I don't think anyone's called or specifically made to do a single thing in their life, but I felt like this is just one part of me, but I don't know who that other part of me is. And so this talk is about that today. It's about trying to figure out where you are and who you want to be and how to get there and how to face some of the fear that comes along with that. So I'm Phillip, and you might have heard one of my many podcasts, but I work for a company called Something Digital. And we're based in New York, and we have a couple offices. I live in Palm Beach, Florida, and so I'm very blessed to enjoy weather that's quite different to this here. But we're always hiring. Plug. Okay. But if you have heard my name, you've probably heard my name in one of two contexts. A few years ago, you might have heard my name or Phil Winkle or seen me on Twitter, and it was probably around the space of Magento Stack Exchange. Anyone ever use Stack Exchange? Nobody. Not a single person in this room. Nobody copies and pastes code. That never happens. Okay. But out of Stack Exchange, I met some really incredible people in the Magento community. It was my first time that I ever was introduced to other people who are coding Magento. And because I was just sitting in an office in Boca Raton, Florida, hacking on this thing that was better than OS Commerce, but not by far at the time, and nobody knew what they were doing. Does anyone really know what they're doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But when I met the people through Stack Exchange, I realized there were other people having really interesting conversations about the types of troubles they were having in creating Magento sites. And I met one of them, a guy named Kalen Jordan, who has turned out to be a very dear friend of mine. And we started a podcast together that today has 70,000 listeners a month worldwide. And we didn't create that to be anything that was noteworthy. We created it because it is our nature in our open source communities to share what we're learning, right? And unfortunately, everybody finds their drug. Anybody have a drug of choice? Don't tell me what it is. But I found my drug, and it's that I like sharing. I like talking about these sorts of things. I like talking about them actually way more than I like doing them. And so I created another podcast called Future Commerce, and then I created like a million other things that I do. And I realized at some point that all of these things are awesome, and they're successful, and they get you notoriety. But I've realized a new thing about myself, a new thing that was one of the things that bothered me the most about my parents. Anybody have mommy and daddy issues? Nobody. Is that my parents were very hard workers, and they were self-employed most of my life. They spent 18 years trying to make businesses work. And they pushed through adversity after adversity after adversity, but one day, they didn't give up for fear of quitting or for fear of failing. They had been probably failing for a long time, but the fear of giving it up was so terrifying to them that they pressed on, and probably to their own there's all kinds of detriments along the way, but they should have probably given up quite a bit earlier. I don't know how to give up. I mean, that could be a really good quality in a lot of people, but it could be any strength that you have, overextended becomes a weakness. And so for me, when I look at the things that I've done up here, being a moderator on Stack Exchange is probably one of the greatest honors to be given to me as a community member, to say that my voice and the answers that I've given as a developer in this community and helping other people, and hundreds of thousands of people who have looked at the answers that I've written, some of which are much longer in content and longer form than some blog posts out there. And the time that I spent doing that has been such an honor that tens of thousands of people would vote to put me into a position of notoriety. But for me, it's that doing all of those things has become my drug. It's that I keep myself busy because there's something that I'm not addressing. It's because I'm afraid. And really, I'm afraid of failing. Because I'm afraid there's something in me, for whatever reason, and I'm sure that I'm the only person in this room, that I need the accolades to prove to all of you that I'm worthy of something. Nobody else here has that, I'm sure. I need every Magento certification. I need 5 of them. I can't have 4. I can't have 1. I need all 5. I need those things. But I realize it's not because I need it because of you, because I need you to like me. I need it for myself because I need me to like me. Anybody yet? You guys are so quiet. Come on. So, what is so bad about failure? Why do we avoid it so much? We learn more from failure, I would argue, than we do from success. Because success is actually built on a series of failures. And failure is not the opposite of success. The noted historian, Arianna Huffington, said that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success, but I would rewrite it to say that failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is critical to success, because success is really just layers and layers and layers of failure. And so that's what this talk is about. It's not about success or even failure, really it's about facing those fears that we have. And I've spent so much of my life, just like I said in the beginning, crippled by that fear. But, one of my favorite movies of all time, we have to learn. We have to learn to face those fears, right? Nobody? Have you seen this movie? Do you have this in the UK? Oh, yeah. Really? Can I do my impression of the guy? Yeah. If I were the king of the forest. No? Okay, all right. It's terrible. Oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. My wife's gonna watch this, she's gonna kill me. Okay. 1992. If I rewind in time and I look how I've changed as a person, and I look back about what my fears were back then, I was 12 years old. Okay? That means I was born in 1980, PII, I understand it. You guys don't have to work it out, I'll just tell you. 1992, this is what I was most afraid of in my life. I was afraid of going to sleep, that this guy was going to come into my dreams and hack me to shreds, right? Did you guys have this over here? No? Nobody. Freddy Krueger embodied everything that I was terrified of in my life. But it's interesting because when you grow up, those old fears kind of die, right? And you move further down the timeline, and fear looks like that. Now, I didn't have time to add a 2 on the end of it because Magento 2 is really what we're all terrified of, right? And the fear doesn't stop, because then you see story after story. You see Phillip post on Twitter that Magento 2 is putting his company out of business. And the fear doesn't stop, because I heard those things 8 years ago about how awful Magento 1 was. And the fear just keeps coming at you. And I have news for you. If you're young, this is what fear looks like to me now. I am terrified of my 5- and 6-year-old because I love them so much. And they mean everything to me. And at 5 and 6, they just want to hug me. They want to come up next to me. They want to put their arms around me. They want to kiss me and say, "Daddy, I love you. Can you walk me to school? Can you take me on my bike? Can you teach me how to ride a 2-wheel bike? Can I borrow $20? But the day is coming, not that they could pay me back. It's not borrowing. Let's be honest. The day is coming where they'll stamp their feet at me and they're going to tell me, I hate your guts, Dad. And I'll be like, go to your room, But I know that day is coming. And I'm terrified that they're not going to turn out to be great people. They're not going to turn out to be, the lovely kids that I know. But why that fear doesn't keep me from acting as their father. It's the point that I'm getting to today is that you have to push on. You have to push on past the fear. And I fail every day as a dad. Anybody have kids? I fail every day as a dad. I'm not the dad I want to be today, but I learn from it. I manage my life like it's a Trello board. I have a Trello board for my life. And I can ban my life to say, I want to be intentional about these things. So I write them down and I say, what worked today? I have a stand-up with myself. I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, first of all, your hair is amazing. Second of all, that beard, that is sweet. Don't ever get rid of the beard. Looking so good. Then the second thing I do is I say, what worked yesterday? Right? What did I do yesterday? What are my blockers today? What am I focused on for tomorrow? Right? A very wise man told me, and if it's anyone listening, it's my boss at Something Digital. He's a very wise man. Keep hiring people, and please keep me employed. Pay me more. That'd be great. But he told me when he hired me, the day he hired me, he looked at me and he said, at the beginning of every day, see what's happening tomorrow. And at the beginning of every week, see what's happening next week. And at the beginning of every month and every year, do the same. And you'll always be successful. You have to manage your life. You got to manage your calendar, or it'll manage you. So, if I'm being really honest, failure it's made me who I am. And to make the best of these lemons, to try to get some lemonade out of the lemons sometimes in life, you have to take control. So the best thing you can do is focus on the only things you can control, and that's you. So, focus on your attitude. We don't always have the best attitude, but sometimes we gotta get a better attitude, and I'm the chief offender. I am the chief tweeter. I am the tweeter in chief in the Magento community of bad attitudes. So, and then we can control our hard work. If we don't understand something, it doesn't mean it's ununderstandable. It means that we need to put a little bit of hard work and some sweat equity into it to figure it out. And it doesn't come naturally to everybody. I realize that. I am the least qualified person in this room to be doing this stuff. And you gotta be prepared. You gotta show up prepared. And that means sometimes, like Ben said, we do not have the same amount. How am I on time, Tony? I'm just going to preach for a little bit. We don't have the same kind of luxury that our parents and grandparents had. There's no durability of skills in the workforce anymore. What you learn today is obsolete in 5 years from now. You have to make the most of what you know now. So what are you going to do about that? You got to prepare for what's coming. And that means you got to have a lot of grit. That means that if you don't want to be left behind, you got to hustle. And that means you got to push through some of that hard stuff. And that means Magento 2, you got to come up to speed. And Magento 1's not going to be around forever. You may not like it, I may not like it, but it's a thing. So, find 10,000 ways to fail on Magento 2. Already have, Phillip. It's called 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, or whatever that patch was that happened. Thomas Edison talked about that. But also, noted philosopher Dolly Parton, she said, everyone wants happiness, nobody wants pain. I love this. But there can't be a rainbow without a little rain. So for us to get to the accolades, for us to feel like we're on top of the mountain, you gotta climb the mountain. And climbing mountains suck. I know they do, because I just ran over a bridge over here, and that sucked, and that's a lot smaller than a mountain. So, I would tell you this today. Work hard. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything. There's no can't. There's only won't. Okay? So, I got to get to a story. I got to hustle up here. I got to push through this presentation. You got to work hard. You got to overcome. Stand on top of that mountain. Hold a Trailblazer Magento flag, and you might make it into the Imagine slide deck. That'd be really nice. That is not me, by the way. I don't know whose image that is, actually. It's probably Google Images. So story time. So I traveled with my band for 7 years, and one of the coolest things that we got to do is we were playing a gig in Seattle in 2000, and somebody came up to us afterwards, this really dear man. He came and he said, I'm an elder in my village. It's a village in Alaska called Point Hope. There's only 900 people in this village, and we never have people come to us. I want you guys to come and play music for us. And I was like, how freaking cool is that? Let's do it. I didn't know it takes like 5 planes and a dog sled to get there. None of the planes have heating, okay? So January, I do not know why we chose January to go to Point Hope, Alaska. I still don't understand that. We're in the north of the Arctic Circle, and it is negative 50 Fahrenheit, which is like minus 5,000 centigrade. I don't know how it was cold. It was so cold that we had to wrap all of our exposed skin. And when you wrap your skin up, you have to cover your eyeballs too, because they stick open. It's crazy. And you can only be outside for a certain amount of time. We show up and we bought at the mall. We bought at the mall all this Gore-Tex, right? And we had Gore-Tex boots, and we had the base layers, and we had the thing, and we had the hats on, and we got the goggles. And we show up, and the village, they come out to meet us, and they say, what are you wearing? You are gonna die out here. And I mean, the houses inside are like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like, it's negative 4 or something. It is cold all the time. It never stops being cold. And the sun hardly ever comes up. It basically looks like that. And so when we got there, the village comes around us. And they put it out on the CB radio. They don't have cell phones. They put it on the CB radio. The whole village is on the same channel. It's like Twitter, right? And they're like, we had all these white people that just showed up, and they don't have anything to wear. What can you do? And the whole village shows up with furs. And they pile them on us. And they clothe us. They cloak us in these furs. And they dress us. We were not prepared to enter this community, but they welcomed us in as outsiders. And they showed us around. They showed us how to eat muktuk, which is frozen whale blubber. I highly do not recommend eating muktuk. And seal meat stew, which is more seal than it is stew, and is not good. But it was so lovely to see these people, and yes, we played music for them, and that was great. They didn't really care for the music, but it was fun. But to see these children, and these were people with so much love and so much acceptance of an outside community. And this is a people who have been persecuted over and over again by outside communities. But they refuse to give up. And so they take us out. So we go dog sledding with them, and there's a fence that acts as a windbreak. And there are these dunes of snow, or these embankments of snow that are 30, 40, 50 feet high, and we're cruising around them. We get back to the village, and they had allowed me to use one of their snowmobiles. First mistake, do not give a Floridian a snowmobile. It is not the same as a jet ski. I don't care what you say. And what's the first thing I want to do? So I want to go out and I want to hit those dunes, right? And they tell me, listen, be careful when you're out in the town, because we have a siren. That's like your tornado sirens. But when you hear that siren, it's polar bears, okay? So just keep a lookout. Okay, not a problem. So I'm out there. I'm on the snow embankments. I'm taking these sweet jumps, and you should have seen me. It was like the X Games. I'm like kicking it back, and I look so cool. I wish there was someone. The GoPros weren't invented yet, but there would have been nice to have a nice picture of it. And I went up over the first embankment, and I hit it. It was perfect. Came off the second one. I looked amazing. And then I went off the second one, and I gunned it a little too hard, and the back end kicked out from underneath me. And it went flying one way, and I went the other. And I went rolling down the hill. And so I looked around, and I came to, and it was sort of on top of me, and I'm like trying to dig it out of the snow, and I'm trying to kick it out of the snow, and I couldn't get out of the snow. And I'm trying to dig myself out of the snow. And the wind is blowing, and an hour goes by, and maybe 2 hours goes by, and I'm getting really, really cold. And I gave up. And I just sat down, and I said, this is it. This is where I die. And at that moment, I hear a siren go off. And I said, no, now is when I die. And I couldn't even climb to the top of the embankment to find out which way was up. I didn't know where the fence was. I could not have gotten back on my own. And right at that moment, I closed my eyes and I prayed and I laid back and I thought, here it comes. And a dog sled team comes from over top of the hill. And the whole village is out looking for me because I had been gone way too long. So, obviously I'm safe. So what is that to say? You cannot do all of this on your own. Space 48 can't do it alone. Varian could not do it alone when they created Magento. Magento cannot do this on their own as much as they want to try. We are successful together. What makes us different and what makes us unique and what makes us successful is that we are a community of people who welcome others from the outside, and we wrap them in fur, and we are accepting of them when they're not ready for the environment they're going to step into, and we teach them our ways, and we help them come up to the next level. I love this slide. The Legend of Zelda taught me more about life than most things. But it is dangerous to go alone. So, to wrap up, my advice to you is things you know, but I want to encourage you to do, which is you need to fail a little faster so you can be more successful quicker. So instead of complaining about your problems, let's contribute as a community to asking the right questions and getting the right answers. Be decisive, even if it leads to the wrong decision, that's okay. But make up a decision. I heard someone say once that don't ever quit, not even once, because it'll become a habit. Own your mistakes, no chaser. That means when you make a mistake, like I often do, you need to own up to it and make it right. And don't be afraid of it. You're going to make a mistake. Make your own destiny and put yourself out there. Now, I have an announcement to make because I have to confess to you that I do actually do way too many things in my life. And it's holding me back from what is ahead of me. So I've talked to Ben and I've talked to Marius, and officially today I'm stepping down as a moderator on Magento Stack Exchange. I've not done my part for the better part of a year. It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to Magento. And for a community to thrive, we need participants. And instead of participating, I've been holding a trophy. And that's wrong. And I want to do better. So I appreciate you all for supporting me for so many years there. But it's time that we have someone who's more focused and more capable to help us in Magento 2 and to make that place great again. How's that? And that's all I have. Thank you so much.